Happy Monday, everybody, as we welcome you on into OneSoccer today. Andy Petrillo, Gareth Wheeler, Oliver Platt joining us from Kansas City because we brought you a pretty big match from there yesterday. Yes, it was Canada-USA playing in the final game in their group. Both had already booked their ticket to the quarterfinals, gentlemen, but we know whenever it's Canada versus USA, be it soccer, be it hockey, be it table tennis, it doesn't matter. The rivalry is always going to be fierce. And it was not the dream start for the Canadians, conceding a goal 21 seconds in. But then that was it. They managed to settle into the game. And in fact, you could make the case they outplayed the Americans for a good 60 minutes in that match. So 1-0 was the final, guys. And I ask you this the day after, Gareth. Who's feeling better today? Is it Greg Berhalter or is it John Herdman?
I think it's going to be Greg Berhalter because he inevitably won the game, right? Like, anytime that a manager comes away with a victory, they're going to feel better about things. So the fact that the Americans were able to hold on to the early goal that they scored, I think that they'll feel better. That's not to say that John Herdman isn't pleased with the way that his team played. I think they showed great resiliency. It's a great dress rehearsal for the World Cup qualifiers to come. Playing in a hostile environment, the team was engaged. I like how they changed things mid-game as well. It showed that the players were adaptable in a difficult situation as well, trying to come away with a goal. I think the occasion is dampened and the performance is dampened by the fact that they lost Andy, but also the fact that two important players went off due to injury in Ayo Akinola and Kyle Larin. I think that kind of hurts the team more today than the actual result, but Berhalter has to be happy. Another win for the US men's national team head coach.
Yeah, the injuries are the question mark, but I think, John Herdman, as disappointed as he might have been after the game to have lost the game, obviously you understand that. I think he'll wake up this morning feeling pretty good. Like, for me personally, that performance, I know we didn't get the result and the US has gone on and won the group, but that performance for me gave me more encouragement and more hope for not just this tournament, but for the World Cup qualifiers coming up. Than a lot of the kind of big beatings Canada's been handing out to weaker nations. So I was really encouraged by a lot of what I saw. I thought when Canada went behind in front of that crowd with what is quite an experimental Canadian team and in some respects obviously missing some key players, I was worried, right? This could get out of hand. They could lose their heads a little bit here when you concede in the first minute of a game in that kind of atmosphere, and that didn't happen. They responded really well. They got hold of the ball. They played their football. They stuck to their principles. I thought it was a really encouraging day for Canada, even if the disappointment was there that they didn't get the result.
Yeah, and even Berhalter before the match, and it seems a lot in American media today, there's a little bit of a switch that's been flipped, right? It's not so much, oh, we're taking on Canada, it's going to be an easy win. It's kind of like, now, this is going to give us a challenge, and what will the result be? However, perhaps maybe you don't want to get too ahead of yourself, because this is what John Herdman had to say after the game and talking about a rematch. He said, "Our fingers are crossed we see the U.S. men's national team again in the final." Ollie, do you like his confidence, or is it one of those, be careful what you wish for?
I like it. How could you not like that? Like, we've been, like I said after the Martinique game, right? Like, I've seen enough of Canada against nations like that, no disrespect, but we've got nothing left to learn in those kinds of games. So it's really nice to score 4 or 5 goals a game and rack up wins, and we can all enjoy that and seeing the Canadian star players express themselves, but we're not learning anything from most games anymore. They're not pushing the group. They're not improving the group. We've got to see them play Jamaica, Costa Rica, USA, Mexico, these teams, and maybe there's going to be a couple of bad days in there. There probably will be, but that's how you learn. That's how you improve. And I like John Herdman in this group really starting to relish these challenges and putting it out there, that they want to go to the final of this tournament and they want to be there in the biggest days in this region.
In the last 3 times they've played now, since 2019, Canada hasn't been outplayed. You can make the argument that over the course of the 3 games that Canada were the better side, despite losing 2 of those games, Andy. So I don't think that the fear factor is there, Canada v. United States. I think they're confident in themselves, and the disappointment therein yesterday is that they didn't come away with anything to show for it again. So that will be the next hurdle, and you hope that comes in September.
Let's look at some parts of that game. We'll get to the injuries that you discussed in just a moment, because I have a feeling the two of you are on opposite ends when it comes to this opinion. And we discussed it ad nauseum, and that, of course, was Richie Lai being taken down in the box by Zimmerman. VAR looked at it. It was no call, no penalty. Alphonso Davies expressed his thoughts on Twitter as well. He was none too pleased. So now that it's 24 hours later, Gareth, and you have a chance to look at it from all kinds of angles, penalty or no penalty?
I'm even more frustrated today that no penalty was given. For me, it's 100% a penalty all day, every day, even if it was 70-30, even if this insane argument that Richie Lai pulled down Zimmerman, if you actually buy that argument when it looks like two players are just both going for the ball, you're reaching. And what's disappointing to me today, not only that the penalty wasn't given and VAR, look, it's a bad refereeing decision on the heels of bad refereeing in game number 1 that saw Canada pick up 6 cautions in that game. We shouldn't forget about that as well. So these are 2 games where, where what happened was influenced by the referee. What really disappoints me today, Andy, is people invested in Canadian soccer, whether it be fans, media types, trying to justify that that wasn't a penalty. Like, why try to be that contrarian? Why to be so hipster when it's blatantly clear that that was a penalty any day of the week for any other country? If they're watching another nation that they cheer for, their club team, they're going to say that's a penalty. But when it's Canada, it seems like we try to take a look at things, or certain people do, try to take a look things through a negative lens or try to spin things the other way. Whatever happened to look at this happened to our Canadian men's national team again. It continues to happen time after time. When will the Canadian public start standing up and saying, you know what, in unison, by the way, and say that's not a penalty? Like, there's some credible Canadian soccer people that are actually trying to justify that a penalty shouldn't be given. For things to kind of swing, like that wouldn't happen, like the Mexican media wouldn't do that, the American media wouldn't do it. No one else would do that. I don't know why we do that. It's a blatant penalty. I said it on the broadcast. In what world is that not a penalty? It just is insane to me. So as much as it angers me that the penalty wasn't given because of the way the game played out and moments like that change games, the response has frustrated me to no end.
Well, you're about to be even more frustrated then, Wheels. I think if you just judge Zimmerman clashing with Lai in the box, it's a foul day long. There's no question about that. There's no question he takes him out. It's a penalty kick. It's what happens before that, which I think is debatable. I don't think it's clear cut, but it's what happens before that that I think gives the referee a way out. And that is that Richie does grab Zimmerman with both hands by the arm. You can see it right there. That, for me, is what the VAR has taken a look at and says there was an initial foul from Richie Lai on Zimmerman, and that has allowed him not to review the call because it's not a clear and obvious error, and so it's a corner kick. I know you're not going to like that, and a lot of Canadian fans aren't going to like that, but for me, it's not a conspiracy theory here. That's just what the VAR has seen, and that's why it's not been given.
Oh, that's going to be a debate for a while, is it not?
It's comical.
But let's get to something
because
positive here. By the way, I think
why it isn't.
We're not finding a reason.
I think he also called you hipster, Ollie.
What are you observing? That was a penalty every day. You're going to the 30% side of the argument instead of the 70% side of the argument. You're trying to justify why a bad call was made instead of acknowledging that it was an awful, embarrassing call that was made. It was the wrong call at that time, that it had a direct negative influence on Canada.
Of course it had a negative influence, but that's how VAR works. If there's 30%, that's it. They're not going to review it.
All right, let's park that for Thursday and have some fun with it again, shall we? Has anyone's stock risen in CONCACAF more than Tajon Buchanan, would you say, Ollie, given where he's come from March Olympic qualifiers to what he's doing right now in the Gold Cup?
Possibly not. Like, I thought the Olympic qualifiers was this guy's coming out party, but there just seems to have been a warm-up, right? You know, he steps up to the senior level and he looks totally at home. And, you know, you've got Greg Berhalter, you've got a lot of pundits out there noticing this guy and praising him. and rightly so. I think he is proving that he is ready to take that next step to the next level, right? He's whether that will happen now or at the end of the season, I'm not sure. Obviously, New England are going to want to hold on to him and go for an MLS Cup this year, but he looks like a player when you compare him to, the players on the field he's out there with, whether it's Kyle Larin, whether it's American players who are already in Europe. He absolutely looks like he's at that level. He was one of Canada's best players again yesterday, and that move seems to me it's going to be just a matter of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks good on the left, and then obviously needing to make that tactical change, moving him on the right, did not look out of place whatsoever. But let's go back to something you mentioned earlier, Gareth, because yeah, if you're Herdman, you're waking up going, can somebody tell me what's going on with Kyle Larin and Ayo Akinola? We already know there's no Alphonso Davies, there's no Jonathan David, right? That scoring punch. So how much pressure now does that put on a guy like Lucas Cavallini if Larin and Ayo can't go for that Sunday quarterfinal?
Well, I'm not expecting good news, to be honest with you, on either the Ayo Akinola or Kyle Larin front. So it's going to have to be a player like Lucas Cavallini. Look, he scored big goals. He's one of Canada's top goal scorers of all time. I think that he's a different type of player than both Akinola and Larin. And he's going to be entrusted to have a considerable role at this Gold Cup. I know there's the ability to call in a player, but I just don't think that there's players of that quality that are able to be brought in. And if players are close, then I'm assuming they have club commitments by right now, and the playing time might not be there. So yeah, Lucas Cavallini is going to have to lead the line for this Canadian men's national team. And then there's going to be opportunities for others in attack to go out and make an influence as well. I'm gutted for the players, as it sounds like they're going to miss out for the remainder of this tournament. Who knows how much longer, but it's a good opportunity for a player like Cavallini ahead of September.
Well, you wonder if the recent announcement by CONCACAF for the Gold Cup comes in a timely fashion for Canada. We'll see if they can take advantage of it, and that is that they announced today medical replacements for the knockout stage. Replacements must be proposed to CONCACAF for review at least 24 hours before the kickoff of the relevant team's quarterfinal match. Replacements must come from the previously announced provisional roster. Yay, Colin Davies and David. I'm completely joking. But Gareth, can we see Canada taking advantage of this? I mean, do you see them maybe still calling somebody in, or is it as is?
You might. I mean, Christian Gutierrez has been with Vancouver Whitecaps and he's been on standby. He can come into camp. It's not easy during COVID times. It's complex with travel. But again, what player are you going to bring in that's going to be able to make a difference for this team right now? That's the thing. I just don't think that player is available. So if a player does need to come in, it's on an emergency basis. They're coming in, limited minutes if they do play at all. So yeah, sure, that's an option. There will be a tactical analysis behind the scenes within the Canadian camp to make that decision and look for that to happen over the course of the next 24 to 48 hours.